Hello, my name is JM and this is my Fiat Grande Punto. To be precise, it's a Fiat Grande Punto Dynamic Sport 8 valve. We'll be selling it soon, but I wanted to do a little review into what it's like owning a Fiat Grande Punto. This is actually my second car. My first car was a Renault Clio. But unfortunately, someone decided to go into the back of it whilst it was parked. Thanks for that. So yeah, this isn't any professional review, as you could probably tell. I've currently got you hanging outside my window, and my neighbours decided to do a little disco today, but I had to do it today because, as I said, I'll get rid of the car. But anyway, on with the review. So, first impressions of the car on the outside. It's a good looking car, especially in this colour code in blue suggestivo, as it says under the bonnet. And part of the reason why it's such a good looking car is the fact that it was designed by Italian designer Guijarro, and you can't forget that because you've got stickers down the side of the car to always remind you. Some Jeremy Clarkson wannabe reviews you'll probably see say that it looks like a Maserati from the front, and yeah, I kind of see it. But anyway, it is a good looking car, and especially with this Dynamic Sport, as I have the sporty sort of looking side skirts and the spoiler at the back. And now round to the boot. It's a good size for, you know, its class. It's about 275 litres. You can see I've got all my jump leads and tie kits and all that. There's nothing clever about it. There's no tie down hooks or 12-volt socket. You got a light. That's it really. It's great that I've got 60/40 split folding rear seats. That's really helpful. And what I will say though is that there's a big drop here, so trying to get that initial, you know, bit over kind of thing's a bit of a nightmare. It's a big drop in, but otherwise it's okay. I'll show up some photos now. I've had numerous things in the back of this car, being my bike, my uni gear going up into from uni, especially what with COVID having to move out and everything. But yeah, you name it, it goes in the back of the car. Tip runs, yeah. So for a small first car or family hatchback, it's quite practical. Just don't expect anything cleverer. And then in the cabin, it's pretty grown up really. I mean, when the Grande Punto came out, it was a big step up for Fiat. When you compared to the previous Punto's cabin, that felt a bit tinny, whereas this, you know, even today, at the end of the day, this car is 13 years old and it still looks pretty much up together. I mean, yeah, it's not any soft plastics, it's all hard, but it's nothing too offensive at the end. I like the fact that with this trim you get the leather steering wheel, the leather gear knob. With active I don't think you do. I've also got AC. It's a nice place to be, this cabin. One little gripe I do have is that for some reason where you rest your foot when not using the clutch, it doesn't feel in a natural place. It kind of, you have to negotiate your feet to get there, but yeah, it's not a big deal at the end of the day. The seats, they're comfortable. I can do long drives in them. A lot more comfortable than the seats in the Renault Clio. My back used to kill me on long drives after that. They're not particularly sporty. They don't hold you in if you're going around corners or anything. But yeah, as I said, you can do long drives in them. Now, as a small family hatchback, it's got a few flaws in that it's not particularly got many cubbies and things. Or in the door bins, they're very narrow. I mean, to give you an idea, you can at best put 3 CD albums in there. But yeah, not practical at all. You got the cup holders here, which to me just does not make any sense when you're trying to change gear, then you knock over your drink, and if you go to a drive-through and you got the cups where the lids can come off, you put it in and knocks it off. Not clever. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. And yeah, the glove box it's okay. Yeah, nothing really special about it. Furthermore, you get a lot of options as standard with the car. So as I said, this is Dynamic Sport, so it's got a few more options like the air conditioning, trip computer, things like that, and the Blue and Me system, which I'll come on to later. But yeah, you get a lot of things as standard. You get front electric windows, and something else which I still think is amazing for a car in its class is the fact that you get reach and rake adjustment, which is, you know, unheard of. In my Renault Clio, it didn't have that. So yeah. So rear space in the Punto isn't too bad. At the end of the day, it's a small family hatchback, so you're comparing it to things like the Vauxhall Corsa or the VW Polo. I mean, this is set up in my driving position. I'm about 178 centimetres. I can't do feet, sorry. But I've got a bit of knee room, and headroom's not too bad. It's a bit basic in the back, got windy windows and things like that. And there is a cup holder here. But yeah, I mean, I know the previous owner before me, he used this car as just something to get to and from school in with the kids. It was a second car. And yeah, and this would be ideal for that. Again, practicality wise, the door bins are pathetic. You can't get anything in them. And unfortunately, on the driver's side, I don't get a little pocket, but on the passenger side, you do. So there you go. Don't know why that's the case, but yeah. So that's a little overview of what it's like in the Fiat Grande Punto. Now I want to go through some of its little features and that, some things that I like and I'll miss, and some things that are a pain in the arse. And then we'll hit the road. One of the first good features about this car is its Blue and Me system. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's basically the Bluetooth system to pair your phone to the car. Now you're probably thinking, yeah, what's the big deal about that? But when this car was released in, 2005, it was a big deal then. It was sort of unheard of, and especially at a car in this price bracket, you know, a basic, small hatchback. And yeah, it works well. I mean, you have the buttons on the steering wheel. You can easily pair it up, no problems at all. And you even have the voice control. You press that button there, the little Windows button. I mean, it's very basic commands. It's not the latest ones with the "Hey Mercedes" or "Hey BMW," but yeah, nice to have. Another feature that I like is that all the passengers get grab handles, including the driver. I don't know why we have that. I mean, ideally meant to have two hands on the wheel, but sure, it just, yeah, whatever floats your boat, I guess. Another nice feature is the fact that every car comes with this nice multi-function steering wheel. Now I've got some of the options of the Blue and Me system, but you know, even the basic cars have the volume controls on the steering wheel and things like that, and it just makes it feel a bit more premium. Another feature I like is called Follow Me Home. So imagine you've just driven home, you pull into the driveway and it's pitch black, you can't see a thing, and you go to turn your car off, and then what you can do is if you pull on the indicator stalk here, you see a little message comes up, follow me, and you choose how long you want it to go on for. And then what you can do, take the keys out of the ignition, get out of the car, lock it up, and then you can see that the lights are illuminated to help you find your way to the door. And then you can find your keys that you want, like that, and then make your way to the front door. And it's all good. It's all thanks to that little feature of Follow Me Home. Now another feature I like is the fact that under here you get a full-size spare wheel. Now that might not sound very exciting, but believe me, when you get a flat tyre, it's what you want. And I can say that I've had first-hand experience of that. Another thing that I like is this stereo and the speakers. It is excellent. Compared to my Renault Clio, it was so tinny. Whereas this, the speakers are great. You don't really need to have an aftermarket stereo really, because you know you've got the Bluetooth, and then I just use a frequency transmitter kind of thing for my music, and yeah, the speakers are more than good enough. Yeah. Now another feature I like is called City Mode. You see it here on the dash. It's this button here, and what it does is as long as you're under speeds of, I think it's 15 miles an hour, if you press that button, your power steering becomes so much lighter, and it helps with low speed maneuvers and things like that. So right now I've not got it on, and if I were to turn the wheel, I know it's not good doing it at a standstill, but it's okay. It's light enough as it is anyway, to be honest. I don't know why we have this feature, but you click this button and then you should see City comes up on the dash, and then I've tried this myself doing a 3-point turn. You can literally do it with a finger. It is ridiculously light. You could just throw it around. So that's a nice feature to have, and I don't see it on any other cars. So the first thing that annoys me about the Fiat Grande Punto is the fact that the cigarette lighter's here. So at the minute I've got my Bluetooth FM thing. So yeah, to me it just doesn't seem a very logical place, especially when I'm trying to do the sat nav. You plug it in and you have the cable going all the way up here, and I catch it on the indicator, and then you don't realise, but this windscreen is massive. So yeah, why isn't it closer? I have no idea. Another annoying feature is, remember that Maserati style front end? Well, that sloping bonnet is actually a nightmare, and you can't see the front of the car. No matter if you stand up, you can't see it, and it proves a nightmare when you're trying to parallel park or bay park. You just can't see the front of your car, so you've always got to think, I've got to add another meter on. So that's not particularly practical. The next thing that annoys me about the Fiat Grande Punto is the Blue & Me system. Now, I know I was singing its praises earlier, and on paper it totally makes sense, but in reality it's not so good. I don't know whether it's because the phones in 2007 aren't like what they are today, or whether it needs an update. I have no idea. I'm not particularly technically minded. It syncs fine. I can read through all my contacts. That's no problem at all. The problem is when I'm either receiving or making calls. Now, some days it'll be absolutely fine, and I'll have a conversation, that'll be it, yeah, it's fine. Other days, sometimes I'll be on the phone, and then I can't tell when it's going to happen. It could be in the first 10 seconds, it could be within a minute, whatever. I'll be talking to, say, my parents, blah, 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 and then it will just make this horrendous noise through the speakers. I can't explain it, and it's so loud, like, it's horrible, and it scares me to death. And now I don't know what the receiver hears at the other end of the line, but I'll be driving along and then just hear, so I go, oh, kind of thing. And then I don't know whether they've heard that or not. And then the system freaks out. You can't do anything then. So then you can't even hang up or whatever. So then I have to pull over, turn the engine off, call my, mum or dad who I'm probably on the phone to, just to say, don't worry, I've not had a crashing. So the last thing you heard was, oh, that's a bit annoying. So yeah, reality is that it's not so good. Another thing that annoys me is, well, actually it isn't annoying me, it's absolutely fine. It's when my friends go to open the boot. Now you can either use the button on the key or use this button on the dash, and it pops right open. Now the problem is when your friends don't know how to open your boot, and they come along and then they forever hit that badge and they try and grab it, and they just are never patient enough to wait and then let me use the button on the key to unlock it. Does my head in every time, and it was the same with my Renault Clio in that it was a little button hidden between the badge. Nobody could figure it out, so they groped all over my boot, getting their grubby fingerprints all over it. Does my head in. Another feature that doesn't annoy me but more my friends or anyone trying to get into the back of the car is that the rear door handles seem to go quite high before they actually click and unlock the door, but you get used to it in the end. Another annoying feature is when I go to fold the rear seats. Now it's good that you can lift the bases up and then you put the seat down, and that should be fine, right? But it's when you go back to fold the seats and then the seat belt is stuck behind every time. So then you have to move the seat belt forward and make sure you get it front, and then there we go. Now I can't be asked to do that every single time, and cars like the Ford Focus have a little thing where you can stick the seat belt in the side to make sure it doesn't snag. So yeah, that does my head in every single time I put my seats down. Another annoying feature, it's not so much annoying, it's just weird, is the fact that if you see here, I've got the front fog lamp switch. So if I turn the car on, I've got my lights on, and then I go to press the and it comes on. But if we walk out to the front, that's where the front fog lamp's meant to be, but I have some plastic trim over it. Yeah, I know it was an option, but I'm sort of halfway there. But yeah, very strange. So those are a few of the features that I like, and quite a few that annoy me, but honestly I do love this car. It's just a few things that I feel you should know about. But anyway, let's go for a drive. So now we're in the car. What's it like to drive? Well, I think the first thing that hits you is that despite being a small car, it feels reasonably grown up, and that's partly down to the fact that it has the small GM platform. So Fiat and General Motors teamed up together and they developed this chassis, which you'll also find in the Vauxhall Corsa, the Alfa Romeo, and the Vauxhall Adam. And the reason why it was used in so many other cars is because it's a good chassis. It's very smooth compared to my Renault Clio. If I hit a pothole, it's not, you know, it would be really crashy, whereas this is quite smooth. The only thing is, yeah, when you go into corners, it is not as stable as you might have hoped. I mean, I drove a Ford Focus the other day, and that felt more stable, more sure of itself, and you could easily throw that into a corner and it would get you around. Whereas this, you're a bit more aware of how you approach corners, otherwise you feel like you've been thrown out. And that, you know, the seats don't particularly hold you in that well. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's not a sporty car. You shouldn't be driving it like a moron. The brakes, they're good, they're light, they're not too grabby. The clutch is light. The gearbox, yeah, it's got a bit of a long throw to it, but I mean, I'm being picky now. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, it's not a BMW. This is not a driver's car. It's your ideal small family hatchback or first car, and it does what you want it to do. It's fine. I've done numerous long journeys in it. I've driven up to Sheffield, and it's absolutely fine on motorways. You do feel like you want another gear. It kind of revs a bit loudly, but otherwise road noise isn't too bad. The stereo is really good. I'll turn it up a bit, see if you can tell. It's pretty good. Better turn it down because I don't want to be done for copyright. But yeah, no. What's good about this 1.48 valve is that it's a good all-rounder, I'd say. It's good round town, it's nippy, and it can get you up to motorway speeds and hold you there. Its only downfall really is that it just lacks that oomph, that acceleration. So I'm here doing 30, if I were to do 40, so foot to the floor. Yeah, there's 40. And like when you're approaching a slip road, you really have to work the gearbox to get up to, you know, the national speed limit up to 60, you know. Visibility in the car is good. The mirrors, as well as having that Maserati styling and looking good, they're a good size. The only thing I'd say about visibility are these A-pillars. They're massive, and whilst you've got those little windows in the corner, they don't really help, they're useless. And you'll find that you're often caught out going around bends and you don't see the car on the other side of the road. So yeah, it's quite a big blind spot there, but out the back, yeah, it's good. Yeah, the other thing that I love about this car and that I'm going to miss is its fuel economy. It's fantastic. So now I've done a bit of motorway driving and in-town driving, you know, start-stop, and I've got 44.9 miles to the gallon. You know, you easily achieve the mid-40s in this car. I did a long drive up to Sheffield and it was fully loaded, the car, and I achieved 47 miles to the gallon. So fuel consumption is brilliant. Now that's partly down to the fact, I believe, that it's an 8-valve engine. In comparison, my Clio was a 1.2 16-valve, and it depends what you want really out the car. If you want better fuel consumption, but you know, you have to sacrifice the performance. So if you want fuel consumption 8-valve, if you want more performance, go for the 16-valve, because comparing the Renault Clio, which was a 1.2, to this Punto, they've got the same horsepower, and that's because the Clio was a 16-valve and this is just a bit more lackluster with that 8-valve. But as I said before, it's that fuel consumption is brilliant. The steering wheel I love in this car. It's nice that's leather effect as well, but it just feels nice in the hand. You can hold on to it. It feels sporty. I mean, that's the only thing that feels sporty about this car, to be honest. Another thing that's quite annoying are the dials. My mum drove this car recently, and for the first bit of the drive, she actually got confused between the rev counter and the speedometer, and I'll try and show on the screen what I mean now, in that, you know, if it was a dynamic sport, you'd think that it might have, you know, sort of the high revs in red or whatever. I don't know, just make it a bit more clear. I often find as well that the engine tends to run cold. I think that's partly to the fact when you look under the engine bay, there's massive room. The engine looks tiny in there. It's the first car that I'd open the bonnet and I could see straight through to the floor, and so I think it's just that it's just, you know, more air kind of thing. I mean, I'd rather it run cold than run hot, so yeah. But all in all, I'd say that as your first car, as a small family hatchback, Punto's great. This engine's good, as I said, as an all-rounder. Don't expect to be going around the Nürburgring in this, but I wish I had the chance to drive a T-Jet or the 1.4 16-valve. I feel like that would be, you know, better at those motorway speeds and just getting you up there. But all I'd say is avoid the 1.2, because based on this 1.4 8-valve, that must be so sluggish and slow. But yeah, all in all, this is a great car to drive. So there you go, that's my review of my Fiat Grande Punto. I hope it helps if you're deciding getting a Fiat Grande Punto, or perhaps it brings back some memories of when you used to have one. Let me know in the comments below if this has been helpful, and give it a like as well, I'd appreciate it. Yeah, I can wholeheartedly recommend the Punto if you're a young driver, or if it's perhaps a second car for the family. Yeah, I love my little Punto. I'll be sad to see it go. And what I like about it is just that it's a bit different than your VW Polos or your Vauxhall Corsas, which, you know, it's its cousin at the end of the day. It just looks better. A few things that annoy you, but you know, they're really first world problems at the end of the day. So yeah, I'd recommend the Fiat Grande Punto, and I hope this review has helped you out today. Thanks for watching.